Today we are going to be ranking every single Treyarch Call of Duty Zombies map by best solo gameplay experience. I'm going to let you pause the video here and read this quick disclaimer before I actually explain how I'm going to rank these maps. So I'm going to be ranking these on the tediousness of the maps for a solo player and also the replayability value for the solo player. I'm going to take in these two key factors when I determine my overall score out of 10, 10 being the best and 1 being the worst for the zombie map experience for a solo player. Before we get into it, drop a like, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to this excellent channel. Every day we are doing awesome content for the zombies community, and I hope you find this video really fun. Make sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to reveal my master chart revealing which Call of Duty Zombies map is best for solo. Nocturne Toten. So here's the deal about Nocturne Toten. It's the very first zombies map ever made. It's really basic. There's only 3 possible doors you can open up. There's not that much going on for a solo player. However, it is kind of fun to have that camping vibe, but the pacing can be a little bit slow at times in the beginning. Overall, it does give a solo rush, and it is kind of difficult, so that is a plus for this map. Not to mention the BO3 Zombie Chronicles remake of this map is a lot better because you can just kind of come in and play at your own style. If you want to play perks and do the Wonder Fizz and Gobblegum stuff, you can, but if you want to play the classic map with World at War, I still think it's really fun gameplay likewise. Overall, this is a solid 6 out of 10. Verrucht. Now there's a little bit more to do in this map in terms of what a solo player can do. I think this map offers a little bit more camping in some way, shape, or form, but it's kind of hard at the end of the day to pull it off. Also, this is the very first map where you have the power, so it gives the solo player an objective to do, which is always a win in my book. And plus, this map does it a little bit better than Nocturne Toten because you can actually open up the whole map and kind of run around and just do a massive circle around the asylum. So overall, not too shabby. I'm going to give Verrucht a 7 out of 10. Shinonuma. Shinonuma is a pretty cool map, and it's also another different ambiance, completely flopped from Verrucht. Now here's the deal with this map. It's a little different because 1, you have more outdoor space to run around, and 2, your perks are randomized. So for the solo player, that can be either a positive or a good thing. But if you keep in mind, you have to jump through all different types of areas of the map and have to go to the end of the doctor's quarters, the comm room, in order to gain your perks. So if you actually have a really good camping spot, you might have to sacrifice a door just to find Juggernog. I found that going back to this map's a lot easier to do high rounds on, and I actually really enjoy playing on this map. However, it's still kind of a World at War map, and it's still a little thinky. At the same time, I really do enjoy this map. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Derice, or the Giant. I'm going to lump these two maps together because they're practically the same. There's only just a tiny tweak between the Giant and Derice, but otherwise they play exactly the same, and I gotta give this map a perfect 10 out of 10 score, and here's why. This map has excellent pacing, there are excellent camping spots, aka the catwalk, and you can train on this map. I love this map, and I think this is going to be one of the solid 10 out of 10s within this video, and I know we just came from a 6 out of 10 and a few 7 out of 10s, but man, this map is perfection. It has everything a solo player would want. Overall, the Giant and Derice get a score of 10 out of 10, perfection. Kino der Toten. Now, Kino der Toten's a pretty interesting one. After coming out of World at War, we were really hungry for more Call of Duty Zombies, and we got Kino der Toten. Kino was a pretty solid launch map for Black Ops 1, and I say this because Kino has a lot of similar things to Derice and all the other World at War vibes, but it kind of capitalizes and does some good things as well. So, for starters, there's one teleporter to get to the Pack-a-Punch room, but when you kind of open up and you get the power turned on, like, you're pretty much set on this map. Like, you're just kind of earning enough to get the Pack-a-Punch, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing really much to do, although this map offers so many good places for training. Keep the stage in mind, and even the spawn room can be a really good area to run. However, sometimes there's not that many good places to camp as a solo player here. I mean, you can find some if you're creative, but it's not going to be that amazing to find some. I do think that this map is really good, and just for the training aspect of going to high rounds, I'm going to give this map a solid 8 out of 10. Now, I'm actually going to lump 5 and Classified together. I think these maps are kind of similar, however, I know they have so much more different gameplay, but at the end, they kind of have the same score for me. For solo experience, 5 and Classified are kind of difficult, which I totally like. However, there's a good spot in the middle of the room where you're just going to be doing all your training. There's not a whole lot of camping spots on this map, and for that reason, it's kind of boring. Now, it can be a challenge to take down the Pentagon Thief, but that doesn't mean it should be docked points. I think that this map just kind of lacks some luster faster, and sometimes it's like the transportation of going places as a solo player between those teleporters and just constantly trying to get to that main room with the DEFCON switches, etc., because that's kind of where the solo player is going to camp out at. I mean, if you want to run upstairs or downstairs, like that's a little bit more of a challenge, which is totally fine. But this map kind of is limited to really that middle spot. For the solo experience of this map, I think it would be so much better playing this map with 4 players, but since we're doing it solo, I'm gonna rank 5 a 6 out of 10. Ascension. Now, Ascension's a really interesting one because if you think about it, identically, Ascension is the exact same format as Derice. So you're gonna think that I'm gonna rank Ascension exactly like Derice. Well, you're wrong, because here's the deal. Ascension, yeah, it doesn't have 3 teleporters, it has 3 lunar landers. Once when you do that, you open the Pack-a-Punch, which would be below the rocket. But the one thing that makes this map kind of hard and just annoying to play as a solo player are the monkeys. And like I said, I'm not ranking these maps on difficulty, I'm just ranking them on how much of a nuisance they can be for a solo player, and these monkeys just freaking annoy the crap out of me. Like, you have to constantly run all over the map as a solo player to cover your perks, and for that reason I'm gonna have to dock at some scores. But if they didn't really have the monkeys, it would kind of be a similar experience to Derice, where it would almost be a 10 out of 10. But since those monkeys exist, I'm gonna give Ascension an 8 out of 10. Call of the Dead. Now here's the deal with Call of the Dead. This is a fantastic map. Right away from the spawn room, you get George Romero. For the whole time, George is constantly on your butt. And I know some of you guys are thinking, oh, it's so annoying. But it offers some really fun gameplay for a solo perspective because you're constantly running around and you're trying to avoid this dude. I actually think this map is better to play as a solo than it is as a squad, because here's the deal. You have teammates and sometimes they might accidentally shoot him and it can screw you over. So knowing that you have full control over George Romero and not shooting him and doing your best to not shoot him is really nice. Furthermore, you have really good camping spots on this map in the starting areas, and as you go on, like throughout the ship or throughout the lighthouses, etc., like you can find some really good places to hang out and just kind of tuck yourself away, or some really fantastic trading spots on this map. Overall, I give Call of Dead a 9 out of 10. Shangri-La. Shangri-La is a really interesting one to jump in as a solo player. This one isn't really like the I'm gonna jump in to casually play some Shangri-La. Like when you play Shang, you actually have to have your stuff together when you're playing this map. This map is really tight and small, and for a solo player, you're gonna have to really utilize those corners and camping spots to the best of your ability in those low rounds. Once when you get to higher rounds, this map kind of really turns into Verrucht. It's small, it's one big circle, and there's so many tight corners and crannies where you have to really navigate. There are some areas to kind of run around and do little circles in the spawn room or in the power room down below, but otherwise you're kind of really limited to your space on this map. While I do like me some Shangri-La, I do have to rate this one a solid 7 out of 10. Moon. Now this map is kind of interesting as a solo player. If you like a challenge in getting started and set up, I think this is a really fun and challenging map. However, if you are more the casual person coming into this map can be kind of tricky. And I'm going to address it right away. Here's the thing I don't like about Moon when it comes to solos, which is right off the spawn when you're trying to either get Juggernog or Speed Cola on Area 51. Sometimes this can make your life a lot easier, or it can make it a lot prolonged and harder, because if you get Jug right away, you can just run a train and then get your zombies and then get your Jug and then hit the teleporter. That's fine. But if you get Speed Cola right away, you have to go onto the Moon and survive your first 4 or 5 rounds, which can be kind of long on Moon because it can be tedious, and then you have to wait until you get Juggernog. On top of that, you got a lot of things to worry about, like the excavators, the Moon guy constantly trying to follow you. But it's not like George Romero where it's just like, oh, you can calm him down. Like this dude flat out takes your perks, which is kind of annoying as a solo player because then you gotta go hunt them down again and repurchase them. But once when you get going on this map and start running around in either the outside area by Mule Kick or the Fire Dome, like it's a pretty easy map when you're in the high rounds. But it's just kind of that setup with this map is just really tedious, so I'm actually going to rank Moon a 6 out of 10. Transit. So here's the deal with Transit. This map might be one of the worst maps for solos possible, and here's why. It's so big, it's massive, you have all these parts to find, there's the fog, the denizens, like you guys already know the awful things about Transit. I really don't need to highlight those for you. This map ranks so much higher when you're playing with multiple people, but as a solo, this map is a slow-paced nightmare. For the launch map of BO2, I really did enjoy this map, but over time, I just kind of got a little bit bored with it, and I think there were a lot of other better maps to play as a solo on BO2 than Transit, and so for that reason, I have to give Transit a 3 out of 10. Nuketown. Now, Nuketown is really interesting because the perks fall from the sky, and this map is really hard. Really, there's not that much going on with this map, and I will honestly lie, I actually played Nuketown Zombies more than I played Transit at launch. I think that Nuketown offers a distinct challenge, but there's not really too much to do. This map gets a completely different score from Alpha Omega. I'm just going to keep a basic score on this map. This map gets a 5 out of 10. Die Rise. Now here's the deal with Die Rise. I think 1, it is way better than Transit, and 2, there are some features in Die Rise that still are borrowed from Transit that I'm not really a big fan of as a solo person. So for example, building all the parts for the trampoline team and just not having that collective part stuff is really annoying. The setup on this map can be kind of tedious. Like you could either run down to the bank and get all the money in the world, or you could just like kind of play it out slowly. Once when you get past like round 8 or 10, I think this map starts to really pick up, and it does have some good vibes to it. Camping, you can kind of camp on the rooftop up by the dragon, like that's an easy spot. Otherwise, you can be running with the Slick of Fire the whole map, and I'm totally okay with that for high rounds. It's just kind of going and navigating the buildings and not trying to fall and lose your perks. So overall, I'm actually going to give Die Rise about a 6 out of 10. Mob of the Dead. Now, I'm going to rank Mob of the Dead differently from Blood of the Dead because I feel like Mob of the Dead is definitely the superior map for a solo player on Call of Duty Zombies. Again, this is a fantastic map, and there's a reason why Mob of the Dead is awesome. Especially as a solo player, you get to collect all the parts for the plane, and you don't have to individually pick them up like you do in Die Rise. This map has some awesome camping spots for the high rounds if you can keep some doors closed off. And it has some trickier spots for training, which makes the solo experience kind of fun in my opinion. And one of the best things about Mob of the Dead is it makes your early round experience really fun. So I'd say about from those rounds 1 through 10 are just really entertaining, really action packed, and you're really enjoying the map. In my opinion, that's my experience as a solo player. So overall, I'm going to give this map a score of 9 out of 10. Buried. Now, Buried's a really interesting map. I feel like as a solo player, this is a really, really casual map. And it's honestly so casual where it actually kind of hurts my experience as a solo player because I can just jump in and it just feels so chill and so low stakes and low stress because you have like the bank system, you have the AN-94, which is Pack-a-Punch, like the best gun in the game, I swear. Like you can just camp by Juggernog and just stay there until round 50. And then once when your AN-94 is like dead, like you can just use the paralyzer to get yourself to round 100. I'd say the two downsides of this map is just finding the booze for Leroy and having him open up a lot of the doors on the map, and also going through the witch's house can just be kind of annoying, although you do get a free perk out of that, so I guess it cancels it out. Overall, I'm going to give Buried an 8 out of 10. Origins. Now here's the deal, I have to confront my bias with this map right away. I think Origins is one of the top 5 best zombie maps of all time. But as a solo player, I'm actually going to rank it just a little bit differently. There is a lot to do in this map, and it actually is quite tedious. As much as I love the stabs and the ambiance and the robots and Argotha and everything with this map, there are some things in this map that can kind of turn me off to playing it. As much as I want to fanboy this map so hard, I think it's kind of annoying when I forget to pick up the gramophone before I want to go into the crazy place. On top of that, if I'm not using any gobblegums or anything on this map on the BO3 edition, the first 4 rounds are the longest rounds ever. I swear it's longer than Nocturne Totem because you have to travel so far, you have to open up so many doors, and there's just so much going on in the beginning. I think it takes an eternity to get to round 10 on this map, and then once when you do, I mean, there's a lot more stuff to do as a solo player on this map, which I think in the higher rounds is really when Origins shines. However, the first 5 rounds on this map are just so slow and so like I just feel like I'm moving in like pudding when I'm playing on this map in the first 5 rounds. Just to say, this map is absolutely fantastic, and I know that I'm gonna get kind of a harsh look for this one, but I'm actually gonna rate Origins a 7 out of 10 for a solo player experience. Shadows of Evil. Yo, Shadows is another one of those maps where it's definitely in my top 5 favorite maps, but I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 for the solo player experience, and here's why. So Shadows of Evil is actually kind of tedious. You have to complete all 4 rituals, and you have to knock down all the parts in beast modes, successfully collect them, and put them on the ritual table in order to start the rituals. Say that this map is kind of like a mixed hybrid between Origins and Mob of the Dead. There's a lot of story going on, and I think those rounds 1 through 10, they want to make rounds 1 through 10 really exciting like Mob of the Dead. At the same time, sometimes it can kind of feel like Origins where you're just kind of trying to set up the whole time. Once when you get past round 10, just like Origins, this map is popping off and flying. I think I actually like this map just a little bit better than Origins in the higher rounds, just because it's really basic. There's not that much going on, but you kind of have the plants over there to get your extra things, and there's just a lot of places to run around and chill out on this map. So for this game and this map, I'm gonna say that Shadows of Evil gets an 8 out of 10. Der Eisendrache. Now the next thing with Der Eisendrache is that this map is fantastic. I love this map as a solo player. I feel like I can jump in and just be really casual with this map. Like, it just gives off that vibe because as you're going, you can easily assemble the Pack-a-Punch and there's not some massive ordeal just to get access to it. On top of that, it's not that hard to get the Wrath of the Ancients. It's just like the Pack-a-Punch. You get it as you go along, and I think that makes the map and the vibe feel really easy for a solo player. But as you go on, you can make this map challenging because you can upgrade your bow to get different elemental upgrades. If you do decide to upgrade your bow, like let's say you do the storm bow, you are set for pretty much the entire game into high rounds, and there's just a lot of places to train on this map, which makes it really fun. If you want to camp, you can sit in the corner with the bow. That's totally a thing. I have too much to say about this map, otherwise it's just really good for camping and running and just any kind of play style for solos, and for that reason I'm going to give Der Eisendrache a 9 out of 10. Zetsubo no Shima. Now, if you've already seen some of my past videos, I have kind of dogged on this map. However, as a solo, I don't think this map is too crazy. I just think that this map gets tedious at sometimes. By no means is Zetsubo no Shima as low as Transit, and I don't think it deserves to be below at least a 6 out of 10. I think this map, it just has a lot of things and features that just make the experience for a solo player just a little bit overwhelming. First and foremost, the constant spawning of thrashers can get kind of annoying, and at times the map layout just doesn't really feel like it fits. Like, you're constantly running across, it's a massive circle, but there just needs to be a little bit more fast travel, and I think this map would actually be perfect for the solo player. There are some areas to camp, there are a ton of areas to run, and for that reason, like, this map is pretty solid in that case. Also, I forgot to mention, it's kind of hard to do the plant simulator within this game as a solo. It's a lot more fun to do with squads. I think that this map with 4 players is a lot better than it is solo. So overall, I'm actually going to rank Zetsubo no Shima a 6.5 out of 10. I don't think it's quite a 7, and I don't think it's bad enough to be a 6. I actually think it's just vibing at a 6.5. Go Rod Krovi. So here's the deal with Go Rod Krovi. This map has an excellent environment, and I know I'm not ranking these videos on excellent environment, but dang, as a solo player, when you jump in and you just see yourself like surrounded by a bunch of dragons, like you just feel so small in such a big universe. This map is actually relatively basic. At the same time, like I was a little overwhelmed the first time I ever played Go Rod Krovi as a solo because I was kind of navigating through myself through the buildings, and once when I got into power, I turned it on, I was like, okay, now what do I do now? And then you had to do the graph modules and do the capturing and then like recruit the dragons, and then once when you got all of them, then you kind of flew over to Pack-a-Punch. So once again, you guys are seeing very reused assets from like Derice and Ascension, where you do 3 things, you get access to Pack-a-Punch. And this formula is relatively basic and it's been around zombies forever, and I think it's actually a formula that works pretty well. And on top of that, Go Rod Krovi's got some pretty decent spots to camp. It's got a little bit trickier places to train, but that offers good challenge for the solo player. Overall, I'm going to give Go Rod Krovi an 8 out of 10. Revelations. Now this one is really interesting because there's 2 approaches that I can take to this map. This map almost reminds me of Buried because it is too easy. I'm going to keep this one brief because I think there's just so much to analyze within Revelations, and it really is just a hodgepodge of just old maps coming back. So they do pick the best training spots in the world, the best camping spots in the world, and they just throw it all into one map. So I guess if you're a really noob solo player, this map is a 10 out of 10 for you. But just for the normal solo player who plays zombies consistently, I think there's other better options of maps to play. Overall, I'm gonna give Revelations a 7 out of 10. It's good, but it's not like I'm gonna pick it over all the other maps in Zombie Chronicles. 9. Now here's the deal with 9. 9 is actually a really good map for solo play. I enjoy this map. You can do challenges, you can run around. It's just really easily accessible, and the areas are just nice and calm for the solo player. I'm gonna kind of talk about this in the future maps with the Chaos storyline, but the special types of zombies can get overwhelming at some point in time. But needless to say, 9 is really cool. It's got really good flow for the solo player, and it's got really good training spots. So I'm gonna give this map a solid 9 out of 10. All right, guys, buckle up. These next 3 are going to be rough. We have Voyage of Despair. Now, here's the deal with the Voyage of Despair. I actually think it's a decent map, and as a solo player, it's got some cool vibes and ambiance, and plus it's got some really good training spots at the back of the deck. Not too much camping because it's just kind of overwhelming, but with this map, I don't know, I just feel like it's really tedious. The flow of it just gets kind of awkward. I think this map would be so much better if BO4's engine and the way that the perk system operated would have been a little bit better. I think this map could have been so much better than it was. I just know as a solo player, it's actually okay to like be up in the front of the ship and run around, and you can get to a really high round doing that. But once again, with all those different boss types of zombies, it just gets kind of annoying. As a solo player, I'm not too attracted to play this map, but I do think it offers some good running and training. So overall, I'm going to give Voyage of Despair a 6 out of 10. Blood of the Dead. Now, this map right away is no Mob of the Dead. I had to do 2 separate map evaluations of these because they are completely different. So I end up giving Mob of the Dead a nice score of 9 out of 10. This map is a little bit different. So here's the deal. Blood of the Dead takes everything that Mob of the Dead does and makes it way harder and way more tedious. As a solo player, I'm just annoyed to even start up this map because I don't want to do that catwalk rush thing where you have to go past all the blitzing, sprinting zombies just to get into the prison. I think that addition just really takes away from the whole solo experience right away. I want to have to do a rush mode just to get into the actual map where everything's going to go down. Although it's a cool ambiance storytelling thing, as a solo player, this thing is kind of a nuisance and a nightmare. With all the other things, finding the parts, there's just so much stuff to do on this map, and it can just be a little overwhelming. And I think that's kind of a theme within BO4, is they really thought that the casual player was gone and everyone was an expert by now. So just kind of having them with that assumption really did kind of harm this map and that game for a general start. Overall, I'm going to give Blood of the Dead a 6 out of 10. Dead of the Night. Now, if you thought I was a little harsh on Blood of the Dead and Voyage of Despair, you just wait now. Now, I know some people really love this map, so please, please, please just chill out with me on this one, because from a solo perspective, I just gotta say, I can't really play this map. I think the best part about this map is just rounds 1 through 5. I love that opening ambiance of 1 through 5 on those rounds. And that's my one positive thing I will say about this map, is it's got amazing ambiance. And as you're progressing through it, like the map is just like, it's like this false advertisement, because right away, like in those early rounds, you're like, yo, this is actually a really cool place, really cool scene. But once when the rounds pick up, that's when this map starts becoming a nightmare. I think the number one thing that turns me off of this map are the vampires. I cannot deal with the vampires. I do not want to deal with the vampires. It's just so annoying to deal with them. And on top of that, you have so many parts to find. And if you've managed to survive the vampires and collect all your parts, guess what? Now there's a big old werewolf boss that you got to take care of. And this map, it just gets so annoying in the later rounds. Now keep in mind, like if you are a player who loves a challenge, this is a perfect map for you. There are so much challenge going on in this map, which is totally awesome and fun. For me as a solo player and someone who's grinded and gotten around 100 multiple times, I just think this map is really tedious. The best part of this map is honestly rounds 1 through 4, rounds 1 through 5, but after that, I just can't play this map. It's just really tough. And so for that reason, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. Ancient Evil. If you thought I was hard on Dead of the Night, totally get it, but this is an awesome rebound map. Ancient Evil is a fun solos experience. This map has a lot of things. One, it's got great wonder weapons for solos to use, and at the same time, you have some pretty good spots where you can chill out, camp if you want to, or run around and train. I love training around in like the little Coliseum fighting pit area where the zombie skeletons are, but this map has really good flow and it's really fun. I think for a solo experience jumping into this map, I really enjoy myself while playing this map map on solos, I'm going to give Ancient Evil an 8 out of 10. Alpha Omega. Now we're going to go back to the dark side here because I forgot that this map actually exists. This map for solos, I don't even know why. I think at this point in time I was so upset because BO4 was just reusing assets and maps and I was just so tired of it. Ancient Evil was a really good map, but Alpha Omega took so many steps backwards. You already saw my ranking of just normal Nuketown. Nuketown was a 5 out of 10. For some reason, Alpha Omega just gets a little bit more tedious and just annoying. I just really think that these maps in BO4 would be so much better if they redid their perk systems, because these maps are just so boring and unplayable as a solo because they just are limited by this perk system. Also, like, I guess this map does have some pretty decent training spots, but I really don't want to revisit this map. If I have BO4 pulled up, I'm not really going to say, oh, I guess I'll just do some Alpha Omega. I'm not a big fan of it, and for that reason, I'm going to give this map a 3 out of 10 for solos. COD Zombies. Now, this map is completely different from Call of the Dead, and once again, it is plagued by the BO4 perk system. As a solo, I do like the change and scenery. Instead of spawning in the front of Call of the Dead, you're spawning in the back by the lighthouse. The pacing just feels a little weird on this map because you're expecting Call of the Dead, and you just don't get that. It's kind of like how Blood of the Dead did to Mob of the Dead. Like, same thing with Togder Totem. It just makes things a little bit more tedious and a little bit more crazy. Now, if they would have thrown in George Romero on this map, I do think this map would have been a complete nightmare and a train wreck. This map kind of gives me Revelations vibes because everything's just kind of like thrown together and it's just like held together with like pieces of like tape and string. Top of that, the reskin Wonder Weapon variant, like, don't even get me started on that. I can't stand this thing. It's just so weird. And the Tundra Gun, like, we all know these things and we just don't want to talk about them because why relive? Overall, Togder Totem's not that great of a map. I'm gonna give it a solid 5 out of 10 for a solo experience. D-Machine. Thank God we are off of Black Ops 4. Now I feel like I can breathe a little bit more because Cold War zombie maps are actually pretty decent. D-Machine's a pretty good map. You actually have some camping spots where you can chill out. You have some trading spots where you can go run around. And to say, this map actually progresses pretty well into the high rounds, and they throw the extras, the challenge with the sprinter zombies at the end. So if that's your vibe, cool. I'm not a huge fan of the super sprinters, but if you enjoy training, it's a little bit more of a challenge, and it does kind of force you to go a little bit more campy. So I think that is kind of a hindering factor. But then again, that's something that happens within the whole entirety of Cold War, so I can't really nitpick that as of right now. D-Machine is pretty solid. I'm gonna rate it an 8 out of 10. Firebase Z. Now, Firebase gets a lot of heat because it's just kind of like that stereotypical boring military outpost base with not a lot of story going on, but here we're talking about the solo gameplay experience and not the ambiance. What I'm gonna say is I actually really enjoyed this map as a solo player, and here's why. Because if you've been paying attention throughout the video, this map has the 3-thing system where you're trying to open Pack-a-Punch and turn on like 3 objectives. You have 3 generators, you turn them on, you get Pack-a-Punch. It's a really simplistic formula, and plus this map even gets a little bit more crazier in the high rounds because, one, I know they have a lot of mimics and you can take some scrutiny for that, but it does have the Orda boss fight by like round 30 plus. So the solo experience, I think Firebase Z is actually pretty decent. You got camping, you got training, you can do good high rounds on this map. I'm actually going to give this map a solid 8 out of 10 for solo experience. Marauder Totem. Now here's the deal with Marauder Totem. Marauder Totem is really similar to kind of the other maps, but this one is when it really kind of starts falling a little bit off for me. As a solo player, like, I enjoy this map and it's got a great ambiance and it's actually pretty relatively easy and simplistic to set up, which I enjoy. I just think once when you get into like the later rounds of round 30 is when this map kind of gets a little irritating. This map is actually relatively easy to get set up and I really applaud it for that as a solo player. I think once when you get to the high rounds, things get kind of irritating. Like, I hope Treyarch one day will realize how annoying Disciples are. Like, Parasites were easy because they were one-shot kills, but Disciples are actually super annoying because they fly, they have armor, and they kind of turn the zombies around you into like their little minions and make them stronger, which is kind of annoying. We don't need to go back to Black Ops 4 with all the special zombie types. Like, that's just irritating. I just think with this map, like, it's pretty fun, and even the high rounds can be enjoyable and you can feel like a boss taking out all these zombies. I just think it doesn't live to the hype of the other zombie maps. Like, I love this for the environment and the ambiance. Like, it's definitely like one of my favorite maps within I would say Cold War, but I just think it just gets a little tedious at high rounds at sometimes. So overall, I'm gonna give Marauder Totem a 7 out of 10. Forsaken. And finally, we have our last Treyarch Call of Duty Zombies map. Man, if you are sticking around to this, you are such a boss. Forsaken's actually a pretty decent map. I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty decent. It's just got a lot going on for it. It kind of does the Mauer Tone thing where there's just a lot going on in the high rounds. But once when you get yourself set up on this map, I think this map's fine. You can easily carry yourself to a high round by training. And since you do have like the overpowered stuff like Ring of Fire, yeah, you can camp in a corner and just chill out. The abominations are just kind of a little annoying, but I mean, that's what you get. Like they just wanted to make a new zombie type from the Dark Ether. And so here we are. As a solo player, I think Forsaken, it's just kind of a chill map, but there is a lot going on at the end. Like, don't get me started. The Crystal Ask, awesome wonder weapon, amazing. I think this map overall is about a solid 7 out of 10. So I'm gonna put the final results on the screen. They're all the Zombies maps ranked best to worst for solo experience in my opinion. Like I had from the disclaimer at the beginning of the video, if you disagree with any of this, that's totally fine. Just please be respectful about it in the comment section down below. You guys are absolutely fantastic and a beast if you got through this full video. I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you're subscribed if you really like this video. Drop a like on it and make sure to tell your friends about this channel. I really enjoy making this content and I enjoy you guys greatly. Let's keep the zombie community strong and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Peace.